What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Got a very interesting duel featuring a Relinquished plant deck. It's going to be facing off against the Sekka's Light Burning Abyss. Obviously, Sekka's Light Burning Abyss has been extremely popular and successful over the last 6 months, and Relinquish is a deck that I always think has been incredibly fun to play. Maybe it doesn't have everything that it needs, but it definitely is a very fun deck, and I am a big advocate of playing Kaijus in the deck because not only do Kaijus out your opponent's boss monsters, but then when you do decide to summon your Relinquish or Millennium Eyes Restrict, if you're going that route and you're playing, Relinquish Fusion and all that good stuff, you can basically just suck up the Kaijus and you're really not having to deal with those. He actually decides to run Kaiju Waterfront, which is going to be crucial in this duel, and I'm not gonna lie, this is a card that I might actually start having to mess around with in some of my Relinquish builds. Now, Righty and Lefty Driver are interesting, and this is, cards that I just really didn't think about in Relinquish, but not only are these cards an instant Needle Fiber, which we don't have in the TCG, but they can actually be summoned to summon another really good card in Relinquish, which you guys will see. Usually when I see Righty and Lefty Driver, it is pretty much that standard Needle Fiber play, but he's gonna go Righty Driver because he has two, and instead of going for Needle Fiber, he plays the Kaiju Waterfront so that he'll get two, he'll get two counters on it instantly, and he's actually gonna go for Herald of the Arclight, and this is actually a pretty solid board because think about it, not only do you have an instant negation for your opponent, but when this goes to the graveyard, not only will it pay itself by basically being able to get you one of your Relinquish to your hand, but then this also gets another counter, so it's kind of like a win-win. That's actually a pretty cheeky play. I might have to start doing that with Righty and Lefty Driver. It doesn't have to be all Needle Fiber. So he is going to tribute for the Gamecill, getting the Herald of the Arclight off field. That does mean that, again, he will be able to search that Relinquish, but this is kind of a Kappa play because if you notice, you gave your opponent a Gamecill, which a lot of people don't think about it because Kaiju Waterfront isn't usually on the field. This is a walking Solemn Judgment if you banish, or excuse me, if you remove two counters from, or two Kaiju counters, then he actually has 4 of them because you played Sekka's Light and you sent his Herald to the graveyard. So now you can summon your Gallus and you can go into your Dantes, but he does have a walking Solemn Judgment. Now, I think that was probably a mistake. I'm not sure why he used Farfa to banish the Gamecill instead of just attacking over it. The one thing about Gamecill is you generally want to kill it if you give it to your opponent while it's in attack position. Otherwise, they'll switch it to defense position and it becomes incredibly difficult to kill. So that was a huge misplay. He's going to pay for it here. He tries to search. He's going to Ash Blossom the search with the Gamecill effect, walking Solemn Judgment plus banish, and now his opponent says, wait a minute, I'm gonna use Beatrice, I'm gonna get my effects, I'm gonna go ahead and chain, and then Gamecill is like, bitch, did I just catch you trying to activate an effect? You get the hell out of here. Gamecill chain link 5 danishes everything. Now the Dante and the materials under that will actually trigger. He does get a search too because Ash Blossom was negated, so that's fine, but you can see now Burning Abyss are still bleeding cards, and he's going to go in for the Herald of Perfection or Herald of the Arclight play again, just to even have more negation when he already has the Gamecill. I probably would not let those Light of Sekkas keep on, I wouldn't let those resolve, but it's just whatever. He is going to negate the Tour Guide from the Underworld. He's now starting to have to use Burning Abyss monsters from his hand because he did already use his normal summon. Has a bunch of monsters, but he's not able to get over that Gamecill, and every time he kills a Herald of the Arclight, he's just plussing anyway, so it's really not that big of a deal. Now you can see right here, the Ritual player does have the play I was talking about. Looks like he finally got fed up and said, damn it, Cap, if there's one, the last thing I do, I will get rid of this damn Gamut. So look at the desperation. He goes for the Phantom Knights of Breaksword, finally kills it using almost all of his cards. If he did keep a monster on board, you see the play that I was talking about, where you Kaiju your opponent's monster, then you summon your Relinquish, and then you just suck up the Kaiju, and then you have a Relinquish on field who has a massive attack. But he's not going to need to do that here. Instead, he is going to basically try to do the pop-off now because his opponent doesn't really have anything in his hand, just has that one card. He knows that he should be fairly safe trying to attempt this pop-off. He is going to go for Aromatherapy Jasmine and Needle Fiber in this play. So, this is obviously not a TCG deck. Obviously, Righty Lefty Driver are not in a TCG either, but you can see even without, Needle Fiber and Aromatherapy Jasmine, he was still doing some really strong things. Able to summon Borreload Savage Dragon. This was kind of cheeky as well. Summons the Gamecill off of the Sarge Skull Dread. He has a billion counters on this thing. So, this is obviously an OTK, and I think it was a pretty interesting build of Relinquish. Not TCG legal because way too many cards that we just showed. I mean, Borreload Savage Dragon will be out in Savage Strike, but Aromatherapy Jasmine, Needle Fiber, Righty Lefty Driver, who knows when those cards are coming. I kind of feel like I kind of feel like righty and lefty driver will definitely be here before Aromatherapy Jasmine. That's the one card where I have no idea when we're getting that in the TCG. I think that righty and lefty driver could be from Savage Strike, but I like those righty and lefty driver plays to go into Herald of the Arclight, have the negation, have it work in conjunction with Kaiju Waterfront, and then on top of that, know that after you negate whatever your opponent throws at you, you get a Relinquish, which you already want because you're playing a Relinquish style deck anyway. So let me pause for one quick second and show you guys the deck list. Alright, so this is what the deck looks like on paper. Not gonna lie, it is a bit of a jumbled mess. I didn't even realize while watching the duel that it is actually 50 cards, and I kind of feel like there's too much clutter in this deck, and some of the ratios are just definitely off, like there being only one copy of Brilliant Fusion. I mean, if you open with it, I guess it's good, and then obviously you search it, but I mean, I don't know, man. Brilliant Fusion just seems to be one of those cards where you want to give yourself a maximum chance of being able to get to it, because you're not always going to have Ortho Scorpio. So, you know, I feel like this is probably a card you should run 3 at. I mean, the Garnet at 1, like, that's perfectly fine. But I feel like some of these cards, like, you know, why do you really need Illusionist, Faceless Magician? If you're only going to run 1 copy, feels like you could probably just dump that. Maybe Crystal Rose is another card that people will use on, like, Melodious and Gem Knights and stuff like that. Another card that I would probably consider dumping. Just a lot of kind of like these random one-ofs. These are cards you can probably just like cut out of your deck. Even something like Kinkabuyu, which is a card that I love in Relinquished in general, but obviously this deck is like super it's super focused around the first couple of turns, and Kinkabuyu is a card that's like really good for grinding because you can summon Relinquish off of it and then suck up a monster that your opponent controls and do it kind of like every single turn, so you're always getting a plus. So it's more of a grind card that you'll see Relinquish players using. You saw when he was able to pop off, it definitely wasn't revolving around grinding. So, you know, obviously some of these ratios I would probably adjust, but in general, it looks like it can be a pretty fun deck. And some of these ideas, such as running Kaiju Waterfront and lefty and righty driver, I think definitely could, you know, they could translate well into the Relinquished deck. Obviously, we need to get these cards to the TCG before, you know, this can be thoroughly tested, but I still think the idea is pretty interesting. And also, I would definitely not run, like, if you're going to run a 50 card deck, there's no point of running any trap card unless it's going to be evenly matching. You know, Relinquish is always pretty good going second because you're running Kaijus and Relinquish anyway, so I don't even think you'd need something like evenly matched, but something like Witch's Strike I would never even consider in this